This looks like it's going to be an amazing opportunity. Many folks are looking for support around federal processes. So I think, this is very timely. And we're going to first hear from the United States Environmental Protection Agency, the EPA. And they're going to talk about some of the funding opportunities directly. We're going to hear from Iris Crawford. She's a senior communications advisor for EPA Region 2. And we're also going to hear from Dave Kluesner. I hope I'm saying that right. Supervisor for the strategic programs and community funding of EPA Region 2. We're going to learn about a variety of federal environmental justice, funding and technical assistance opportunities. And the funding is really coming through the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law and the Inflation Reduction Act. Both of those are big pieces of legislation that passed under this current administration. You probably heard a lot about them. The presentation that you're going to hear is going to highlight the unique differences between each of the programs and provide clarity on eligibility. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Iris and Dave to jump us into this conversation.
Thank you so much, Sarita. And I am going to share my screen. Okay. Can everyone see the presentation? Yes, okay, awesome. So thank you, NJDEP and Melissa, for inviting us to this wonderful day. We're also sorry that we couldn't make it to Atlantic City, but are here virtually. And so, so Dave and I are just going to go over some of the open funding opportunities, as there are a lot of them. Many have opened and closed, but we're just going to go over the most relevant ones that are open today. So as Melissa and Sarita had already mentioned, through the Biden-Harris administration, the Investing in America programs, we're providing historic funding opportunities to confront the climate crisis and reducing pollution. So we're just going to talk about some direct grants, subawards through various programs, and then most importantly, the technical assistance, which, as some folks noted in the chat, is a great need. So we're going to go over that as well.
So, excuse me, Iris, can you put it on start from the beginning so the presentation is bigger? Yeah, thank you.
Okay, and you can go to the next one, Rihanna. And then the next one. Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Technical difficulties. So we're going to go over thank you, Jacqueline. So 4 open funding opportunities. So the 2024 Clean School Bus Rebate Program, the Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund, the EJ Thriving Communities Grantmakers Program, Fordham is with us today, and the Community Change Grants. And Rihanna, you can go to the next one. So so there, under the Clean School Bus Program, there are 2 programs. There's the grant program, Clean School Bus Grant Program, and then the Clean School Bus Rebate Program. So I'm going over the rebate program, and the reason that is because in 2024, there will be no grant program. It'll just be the rebate program. And so that gives EPA the ability to offer rebates to replace existing school buses with clean and zero emission models. And so the application processes are sort of similar in the beginning for both. So you would submit an application, and then EPA would notify you of your status, and then you would be able to know, like, okay, I'll be able to purchase buses, and then EPA would be able to reimburse me for them. So I hope that makes sense. In terms of who's eligible, it would be public school districts, tribal applicants, third parties, and local, state governmental entities, and all of these eligible parties should be providing school bus service to one or more public school systems, be able to purchase, lease, or license or contract school buses. So everyone who's applying should be doing those things. And I think what's important is that it's really cool that I think this program is being able to offer rebates, because for one, it's expensive. Some of these buses cost like, you know, 20K to like 50K, super expensive. And so in terms of the kinds of buses that are eligible to be replaced, it depends on the model year, the weight, its operational capacity, and how many times a week it is servicing bus routes. So what the EPA would be able to give you rebates for are older diesel combustion engine buses, as well as some new electric buses. And you can learn all about the types of buses that are eligible for rebates. The only ones that have not been eligible last year, and I'm not sure about this year, it might be the same, is biofuel. So particularly for New Jersey, recently for the 2023 grant program, a third-party bus company called VanCon, they got 19 million, and we were able to celebrate with them a couple weeks ago with Senator Booker in Union City. And then in 2022, under the rebate program, the Bridgeton City School District was able to receive $790,000, and they were able to replace 2 school buses. So I hope folks can take advantage of this rebate program. I think it's really wonderful and great to be able to do. And then Rihanna, you can go to the next slide. So the next thing that I'll talk about, and Melissa had also made reference to this, is the Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund. And there are 2 programs that I'm going to go over. The first one here is the National Clean Investment Fund. And then the other one on the other slide is the Clean Communities Investment Accelerator. So for this one, the National Clean Investment Fund, it is $14 billion nationally, and it will give 2 to 3 national nonprofits, which are considered, which are supposed to be clean financing institutions, the ability to partner with the private sector to provide accessible, affordable financing for thousands of clean energy technology projects around the country. So in terms of who those national nonprofits are, that'll actually be announced this coming week, which is awesome. And we're hoping that we have someone in Region 2. And then in terms of who is eligible, that so essentially these national nonprofits will be able to provide financing to families, small businesses, communities, and many others to be able to access the capital that they need to install cost-saving and air pollution reducing, technology projects. And as Melissa had mentioned, 40% of this fund is flowing into just this 40 communities. So all of the folks that I just mentioned that are eligible will be able to get these sub-awards. So think community microgrids, whatever that may be, to be able to finance these clean energy projects. So yeah, and Rihanna, you can go to the next slide. And then the second program, which I had mentioned, the Clean Communities Investment Accelerator. So that is a $6 billion program. And all of the funds from this program will go towards just as 40 communities. And that is a program that is for 2 to 7 hub nonprofits that will in turn deliver funding and technical assistance to local community lenders. So what are community lenders? That includes community development financial institutions, credit unions, green banks, housing finance agencies, minority depository institutions. And so what's great about this accelerator program is that the technical assistance and the funding are 2 key things that I hope folks will take advantage of. And these hub nonprofits, again, they will also be announced this coming week. We'll be able to provide subawards that will be able to help them build their capacity to help all of these eligible projects. So in terms of projects, what would the accelerator be able to fund? So they must fall within 7 categories. So climate change, clean energy and energy efficiency, clean transportation, affordable and sustainable housing, training and workforce development, remediation, reduction of legacy pollution, and the development of critical clean water infrastructure. So the interim implementation guidance for Justice 40 initiative, that's a link that NJDEP will share, should be able to provide examples of who's eligible and so forth. So yeah. And more information, as I said, coming soon on both programs next week. And I also will say that, so for these 2 programs, just to make clear, the Clean Communities Investment Accelerator and the National Clean Investment Fund, they will be in the form of, it's not a hierarchy, but yeah, it'll be the hub nonprofits and the national clean financing institutions that will be giving subawards and funding and technical assistance to, so they're like subawards to families, to financing institutions, all that type of stuff. So I hope that makes sense. So EPA, hub nonprofits, national financing institutions, and then folks on the ground. So I hope that makes sense. And you can go to the next slide. And so we have some folks with us here today. We Act, which is our EJ Thriving Communities Technical Assistance Center. They're amazing. They have been so wonderful in many of the things that we've been doing already. And they are the folks that you need to go to for technical assistance. And then we also have Fordham University, who is our EJ Thriving Communities Grantmakers Program. And so they'll also explain how that program works, but it's also like a similar tiered thing where it's EPA, Fordham is getting funding, and then Fordham will award subawards to folks on the ground. So yeah, and then also, they also have a number of partners, both We Act and Fordham have a number of partners that they're working with to help you with technical assistance, and then for Fordham to help you with those subawards. So please utilize both things, and they are going to be working in tandem. So We Act will help folks with capacity building, all that type of stuff, and then refer folks to Fordham, but they'll explain that more in depth. And then Rihanna, you can go to the next slide. And now Dave is going to talk about the program that you all have been waiting for, the Community Change Grants. So Dave, I'll let you take it away.
Thank you so much, Iris, and it's a pleasure to be here. I see some familiar faces, and so that's exciting. Thank you to the organizers and the difficult decision that you had to make on this event, but safety is most important. So I'm David Kluesner. I direct strategic programs and what we call community-based funding in a new organization. It's called the division that I work in is the Environmental Justice, Community Engagement, and Environmental Review Division. So for the first time in history, the agency created its own national program office. It's the Office of Environmental Justice and External Civil Rights. This is exciting news, which basically means it had the OEJ-ECR, that office, that new office, is on the same footing as our air program, our water program, our land cleanup program. So that was exciting. What they also wanted to do is have a direct line of that national office directly to a division that had all of our 10 regions have stood up the new divisions to really focus on environmental justice, community engagement, and environmental review. So with that, I will go through some slides. We will have some time to answer questions after the presentation. Okay, next slide, Rihanna. All right, so there's $3 billion through the IRA. If I think is it okay if I use IRA as a mouthful, Inflation Reduction Act? So IRA, you'll call IRA or IRA. Anyhow, $2.8 billion in grants, and $2 billion for the community change grants, and then $200 million for technical assistance. These grants cannot exceed 3 years. No extensions are allowed, and all grants must be awarded by September 30th of 2026. Okay, next slide. All right, so this is just a little about the process. I won't spend a whole lot of time on this, but going back into 2023, you see from February to April, there's some feedback. We consulted with NEJAC members, March and July. April, there was 100 plus EPA work groups convened, staff from different programs, again, input on the notice of funding opportunities. And then, June to August, again, more outreach and input. We wanted to make sure this actually makes sense and not just, Washington making these decisions sort of in a vacuum. So that was exciting. And then in September and October, EPA staff worked on the draft notice of funding opportunity. And the climate change grant program began in November of 2023, and like I said before, it closes in a year from that, November 2024. Next slide, please. And a comprehensive approach: environment, people, communities. Essentially, it's just pulling all of those together in some very exciting ways. Next slide, please. Okay, community change grants. Here are the objectives: providing resources for community-driven projects, invest in strong cross-sectoral collaborations, empower communities, unlock access to resources. This is what we're here for. Strengthen community participation in government decision-making. Next slide, please. Eligible entities and statutory partnership. Okay, so community-based organizations are very important. They're actually a key to this moving forward. As you can see on the right hand of the screen, CBOs, there needs to be two entities, a CBO with another CBO, a CBO with a federally recognized tribe. In our region, New York, New Jersey, Puerto Rico, and the Virgin Islands, there are 8 federally recognized Indian nations in New York State. So we won't spend a lot of time on that today, unless there are specific questions on that. A CBO could also partner with a local government. They could also partner with an institution of higher education. So the applicants will have a lead applicant and a statutory partner. It is up to the applicants to decide who that lead applicant will be. We do not get involved in that. So the applications have to define the lead and the statutory partner. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, there's tracks, what they call tracks, sort of different pots of money, different tracks. Total of $2 billion. This is how it kind of works out. $1.96 billion in track 1. So the number of expected awards is approximately 150 awards, and those awards will be between $10 and $20 million each. The second track is $40 million, and this is meaningful engagement for equitable governance. The number of awards expected there are 20, and all of this is nationwide, right? The per award amount is $1 million to $3 million each. So you do not have to apply for more than one track. You can, and so you can apply for 2 tracks. You cannot apply for more than two grants under this program. Next slide, please. All right, the first track, the big enchilada here. The strategies, climate action, and you can just sort of go down the list, whether it's community resilience hubs, perhaps under this grant, a parcel of land could be purchased and a hub built on that land. And so you may, I could see where maybe South Jersey has a hub, perhaps one in Union or Essex County and so forth, just to really focus on New Jersey primarily here. So there's a lot of things under that climate action strategy. And also then pollution reduction. Both, you have to have both in your application, right? It has to address both climate action and pollution reduction. And whether that's clean water, hazardous waste management, indoor air quality, and so forth. Okay, and sorry, that was actually my time up, but we're gonna hopefully, Sarita, I can still have a little more time before we get to the Q's and A's. Next slide, please.
So just to, yes, please finish the presentation. And then I have a strategy for how we'll navigate Q&A to help make up some time.
All right. I don't have much more here. Again, as I mentioned, track 2, some of the project examples are listed here. And again, this presentation will be shared with everybody. So no need for massive note taking. So next slide, please. There's something called target investment areas, as you can see here on the slide. 50 million for disadvantaged unincorporated communities, 150 million for tribes in Alaska, 300 million for tribal communities. These are the lower 48 states plus Hawaii. There's more than 400 and so federally recognized tribes and nations around the country. So that's why you're seeing a big chunk there. Border communities, 100 million, US territories, 50 million. So basically, I mean, if you're adding this up, it adds up to about 650 million out of that track 1 fund. So these are sort of some of the priority areas, but most of the money will be spent, it just spread out in disadvantaged communities across the nation. All right, next slide. So there is a rolling application timeline. November it opened, applications were accepted and were reviewed. We're hopeful that in sometime in this month, in March, it may slip a little bit, that we'll have the first round of awards. But there will be multiple rounds of reviews and awards through the process. So again, the critical date here is the application close date, keeping an eye on that. And like I said, the actual project needs to get off the ground before 2026, and it'll be a 3-year project period. Whether you get the money in March or in July or whenever, each project has a 3-year time span. So some of these 2026 projects could go through 2029. All right, next slide. Technical assistance. This is I'm so excited. This has been needed for so long. I've been in the EJ grant space many years ago, and I saw so many great organizations with what I thought these are great projects, but they did not have a professional grant writer on staff, or they missed the words. There's key words you need to put in your application. And it's so frustrating for the grant applicant and frustrating for EPA to say you are deemed ineligible. And so this technical assistance is designed to minimize the number of those, to really assist pre-award and as well as post-award. All right, so there are 2 TA programs. Iris will take the first one. Next slide.
Thank you, Dave. So the first one is the Community Change Technical Assistance. And so this, as Dave just said, is helpful for pre-award and post-award. You can apply, applicants can apply for both. So it helps with grant application support. So developing, preparing, and submitting a grant application, and will address any eligibility issues. It'll also go into help you with project planning and development. So preparing project map, designs, developing your budgets, schedules, budgets, once again, all those types of things. It'll also help you with outreach and engagement. So This includes technical assistance support in conducting community outreach and developing community engagement plans. And then lastly, technical assistance will also help you with general capacity building. So support in developing partnerships and governance structures. So they're essentially, these are the 4 key steps on how to do it. You get on our EPA website, community change grants, find the intake form, submit the form. EPA will determine your eligibility, or you can call the 1-800 number to make a request or ask any questions, or email at ej_techassist@epa.gov. And then Grant will, we will, talk to you about any grants, talk to you about, any issues, all of that. So please utilize it. And then Dave, I'll turn it back to you to talk about the particular one, the CCERTA.
The next slide. All right, this is a more focused form of technical assistance. Really, really should focus on disaster-prone communities, up to 50 communities nationwide. For this particular focused technical assistance, there for what we call regions 1, 2, and 3, which is Maine down through Philly and then Virginia and other areas. It's sort of the Northeast region. There are 11 that we have been given. Right now, our region has 5 that have been selected for TA for disaster-prone areas, whether it's floods, fires, or so forth. And so we are looking, we currently have 2 in the New York City area, and then we have 3 in Puerto Rico, and we have none in New Jersey. So if anyone is interested, we would like to see someone apply for TA in New Jersey. That would be awesome. So it's a place-based design assistance. It must show intent and eligibility to apply for a community change grant and agree to host EPA contractors for site visits. And the EPA TA can offer some architectural, engineering, landscape support, etc. So very focused. EPA has a very sort of a minimal role here. It's a call, it's a site visit, and a little bit of follow-up, but then our contractors take over and work with that organization. Okay, next slide. All right, we're just about done. There's a lot of information here to keep up with. The frequently asked questions, they're 37 pages long. Now, don't let that daunt you. So I'll put the link in the chat. And it's fairly well written, and it answers a lot of questions. And so, and written in a language that I think is about as plain language as you can get in the grant space. So FAQs, webinars, specific questions, there's information there. And again, you'll have the slide deck. And I believe the next slide is the last slide. Nope, that was the last slide. So with that, I thank you for your patience, and with technical difficulties on my end as well, and Iris, but hey, we're here.